Elizabeth Caputo just wrote saying that, can someone please let me in or send me the link to the meeting? Max, do you?
Sure, I can send her that. Give me 1 second.
Is she in attendees? Because the attendees don't join.
Nope, I only
Attendees
see
don't-
an Irving and a Tom in attendees currently.
Oh, now that you started the recording, she should be able to join.
Yep, actually, perhaps so. I'll find her now.
Yeah, just promote her to panelist.
Yep. Ooh, a lot of people joining all at once. Give me 1 second to find her.
Awesome.
This is what happens when you have to change the date of your meeting, your regular meeting.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, Elizabeth might actually not be in the attendees. I just searched. There's only an Elizabeth Bartman, so I'm gonna go ahead and send her another link.
Okay.
Yeah, she said she's joined via public. I think that.
That's a different Elizabeth. That's one
Oh,
of our 81st Street resident shareholders in another building.
Okay. Hey, if I'm bringing up photographs, do I put them on my desktop or can I just take them from the file?
Desktop, best.
Okay, let me go save this to the desktop.
Oh, Daniela has to be let in also, please.
Okay, sure.
I just did that, but Natasha, I can't seem to copy it into the chat for some reason.
yeah, that's the problem I was having. Anyway, I'll just read it out. It's okay.
Okay, I'm really sorry.
No, that's okay. I was having the same issue.
Okay.
I just sent Elizabeth.
Okay, and that'll be 5, and then we'll get started.
And then who am I looking for in the other? I see.
You got Diane?
Daniela Alvarado.
Daniela,
I've been let in. Thank you.
I got her.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
and there's also Ken Coughlin and Paul
Oh.
Fisher.
Sounds good. I'll get them.
And William.
Is Paul a member of this committee?
Mhm.
Member of the board.
We know that. He just has a propensity for not showing up at ours.
I've promoted all 3. They should be joining. if they get-
Elizabeth said she didn't get the link.
This is Matt Genders from New York City Parks. I see Wesley Hamilton, who's the park manager for Riverside Park. If you could, he's in the attendees. If you could add
Oh,
him
yes.
to the panelists.
Absolutely, please upgrade it.
And Sergeant Yoon from Parks, if you could maybe add him to a panelist as well.
Elizabeth just put in the chat that she
Okay.
should become a panelist. Elizabeth Caputo.
I told her to go in through the CB7 link and we'll upgrade her.
I got her.
I just
For
promoted
some
her.
reason, I've got superpower tonight. I've got her.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, great. Okay, so that's 5. I think we can start then.
Great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Natasha Kazmi, and welcome to Community Board 7's January Parks and Environment Committee meeting. Barbara Adler is my co-chair, and she's here on the meeting as well. Before we start, I would like to go through a few housekeeping items. First of all, Elizabeth Caputo, who's on the meeting now, is taking our minutes. And so if you could just help her out, and if you're not a member of the board, just identify yourselves clearly and your affiliation, if any. The second item is that of Community Board 7's Zoom meetings best practices. These were finalized a few months ago, and I'm just going to read them out right now. It's a very short document, but because there's a lot of public engagement during this meeting, I just want to make everybody aware of these best practices. I was also trying to post them in the chat, but I'm unable to do so. So I'll just go through them very quickly. Number one, everyone should use their full name to register for meetings and fill out all fields, indicate address and affiliation. Community members who would like to speak during the public session should sign up during the meeting. Board members are encouraged to keep the video on during meetings and to avoid doing anything on Zoom that you wouldn't do at an in-person meeting. All speakers, including board members, should disclose any organizational affiliation relevant to a topic before speaking. Please wait for the facilitator to call on you before speaking and be concise. Please limit the number of times speaking to once per topic to ensure time for community input. All meeting attendees must treat everyone with respect and courtesy at all times. Anyone who is disrespectful will receive a warning. If the behavior continues, the offending party will be removed from the meeting. Chat function during meetings should be limited to the topic being discussed or to offering useful, relevant links. Personal attacks, whether written or verbal, are never acceptable. Board members are expected to be present for the entire meeting. Board members should inform either a committee co-chair or the board chair in advance if unable to attend. And specifically for tonight's meeting, please raise your hand if you have a comment or a question. Please do not speak over each other. We are going to allow about 5 minutes per speaker. And for Q&A and comments, I think we're going to allow about a minute per comment or question. The final item is something that I just wanted to bring your attention to. And I want to thank Mark Diller for bringing my attention to this topic as well. As many of you may be aware, the participatory budgeting season is underway. And as the Parks and Environment Committee, we are just informing you that there are right now 14 Parks and Recreation related items that are up for your vote, your approval or disapproval. I've actually, at 6:35 p.m., I actually posted the link to all 14 items in the Zoom chat. So at your leisure, please go and check these out. There are some very good proposals out there. And if you feel strongly one way or another, feel free to vote. And with those housekeeping items, I'm just going to hand the meeting back to Barbara. Here you go, Barbara.
Okay, thank you. So before we get started, I have a few parks notes of interest. In case you haven't heard, Dan Gorodnick, the CEO of Riverside Park, has just been appointed the head of the City Planning Commission. And so he'll be leaving the park. We congratulate him on this appointment, of course, and thank him for the so many projects that he undertook as head of the park since 2018. His replacement has not been named yet, but of course we look forward to hearing who that is. And Gabrielle Fialkoff, who was the new commissioner of parks for a few months, has also left. Liam Kavanaugh is going to step up for now as the CEO, as the commissioner. And I assume that Mayor Adams will make an appointment fairly quickly. And lastly, especially for committee members, especially you, Ken, the Dell Court renovation was before LPC yesterday. They approved the project, but I know that a few of you will be pleased to learn that they asked for the seating to be a more neutral color and for some changes in the placement of signage and the number of signs. Okay, so that said, I'm going to get into our main issue tonight. I'm going to give you a very brief overview, and then a number of people will speak to this. For the better part of the past 2 decades, there have been serious noise issues regarding Bull Moose Dog Run, located inside Theodore Roosevelt Park, close to 81st Street. Theodore Roosevelt Park, if you don't know, is a city park. It's about 12 acres, and it's on all 4 sides of the Museum of Natural History. Friends of Roosevelt Park a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation, has maintained a public-private partnership with the American Museum of Natural History for many years and has an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with them. The Friends, as they call themselves, derives some of its funding from the museum and other funding from donations as it strives to keep Theodore Roosevelt Park the neighborhood jewel that we all really love. Tonight, we're going to hear from the president of TRIPNA, which is Theodore Roosevelt Park Neighborhood Association, Steve Anderson. We'll also hear from other 81st Street neighbors, and Peter Wright, who was the longtime president of the Friends Group, will discuss what the group has tried to do since 1995 to help ameliorate the noise issues, which are now compounded with other issues. I'm sure that some people from Bull Moose Dog Run are also here. I know they are, and I expect that they'll want to speak as well. And Linda Alexander, who is, of course, a CB7 member and chair of our Business and Community Affairs Committee, is here today because she's one of the original founders of the Dog Run, and she is also a board member of Friends of Roosevelt Park, as am I. To get started, why don't we start with you, Steve, from Theodore Roosevelt Park Neighborhood Association.
Well, okay, good evening. Appreciation to this committee and CB7 for providing us this opportunity as we seek your support to finally remedy issues that, as Barbara mentioned, have been known and not been resolved for a decade and have now become worse. This is a pandemic chapter for us all, and I'm trying to keep it all in perspective, recognizing how fortunate we are. And this is not about life and death, but about quality of life. As Barbara said, my name is Steve Anderson, and I serve as the president of the Theodore Roosevelt Park Neighborhood Association, which is the block association of West 81st Street between Central Park West and Columbus. And our very name indicates the importance of Theodore Roosevelt Park to all of us. Among our neighbors are many who love our park, many dog owners, plenty of whom would like to use a well-managed dog run. During the pandemic, when many of us sought sort of safe, precious time in the park, others welcomed a new dog into their lives. Cutbacks in the park department staff and the continuation of the museum's enormous construction project, which does include a transformation of part of the park all the way almost to the corner of 81st Street in Columbus, clearly added to the chaos. The dog run is within a New York City park, and the management of it is left to volunteers. That's the system we've always been told, and perhaps that's a subject for another time. But this has not worked out well enough. And just so you know, our block association has just initiated a working group to help the dog run users organize and to collaborate with park users, and we will report back to this committee. But this evening, as Barbara mentioned, there are two critical issues that must be addressed right now. And one is the intolerable level of noise that comes from the dog run and bounces into many apartments on West 81st Street, and in fact, all the way across Columbus Avenue. It's been way too long, after too many meetings and assurances. Really, the time has come to take action. The professionally measured decibel level is beyond the acceptable city guidelines, and this must change. At this hearing, you're going to learn about remedies proposed. And as a result of the displeasure by many dog owners about the evidently improperly renovated dog run, with the Parks Department choosing not to follow through with the dog run users group's recommendations for a variety of reasons, many of whom I'm sure are quite valid, but specifically the surface, which many maintain is a danger for their dogs and has caused injury to many animals. There is now a second de facto dog recreation area that's been created. with dozens of dogs and owners regularly, repeatedly, either jumping over fenced-in areas or tearing apart fencing that surrounds the green along West 81st Street, destroying grass, creating more noise even closer to where residents live across the street, and almost without any ability of Parks Department or any other authority willing or able to cope with the problem successfully. There's hardly even a sign to alert dog owners of this prohibition. Some that were up have been removed. And quite clearly, Parks has seen that just the fencing there and torn fencing is not sufficient to notice. Not sufficient for them to notice and follow that prohibition. Tonight is the next chapter, and we seek your attention to these issues that are dramatically impacting the lives of many in our community, many dog owners, many dog lovers, and so many of us who cherish this little park in our community. Again, thank you for your attention to this issue.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks. Robin, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much for bringing up those issues. And you pointed out a number. And just to introduce myself, my name is Robin Epstein. I'm on the board of Theodore Roosevelt Park Neighborhood Association as well. And I'm the president of 35 West 81st Street Co-op between Central Park West and Columbus. I'm a longtime dog owner. I have a Boston Terrier, a 6-year-old named Macho. And he loves the dog run, but unfortunately when it first opened, he was running in the dog run and got hit in the eye with a piece of gravel and had a detached cornea. So he needed to have eye surgery. So he goes there, but not that often because he's got a flat face and he's prone to injury. So we take him on walks, we go to Central Park, but I think that we are sort of in the minority. The dog, a lot of dogs are using the lawn across from 81st Street. They either bend back the fencing, pull it at the edges where it meets different kinds of fencing come together, climb over the fence. The green grass has become a muddy, disgusting mess. A lot of the dogs are unattended and do their business, and then it's not lit well in that area, so that the poop just stays there. I have pictures of it along the fences where in the spring there'll be tulips. Right now there are not tulips in that border around the park. In addition, a lot of dogs run back and forth while the owners are chatting. There's many beautiful trees with exposed tree roots that are coming up that is not only like tripping hazards, but also the dogs go and dig in there and create holes in there. There's a couple of metal plates and boxes that are in that lawn there. I'm not sure it was ever intended for dogs to use. I don't know what's inside those boxes, if those would be either dangerous to whomever were to use it, if they were to get wet. There's not really too much signage, but one interesting thing that we have with the noise with the dog run is depending on where you live in the building, you hear the noise from different places. So people higher up in the building, when the dogs bark, which is nearly constant, you can really hear it from the middle of the building higher. But if it's on the lawn right across from the building, you hear it on the lower floors. So last night at 12:15, there were 3 or 4 dogs in the grass, sniping, barking, unattended in the pitch black. And I looked out the window, I could see the figures of people there, but also dogs running back and forth, some with glow collars and others just running back and forth and barking. And then the owner is yelling at them to come here or whatever. But when it gets closer to the building, you can hear it on the lower levels. So we have a number of problems, but I think that we do need to find a solution to remind, dog owners to be more responsible, respectful. And we have created a great oasis for dog owners to meet and have the dog socialize, but the grass is not the place for that. And I think a lot of humans would like to use it either in the winter, the spring, or the summer, but I don't think it can be for dogs digging and pooping all over the lawn and for humans as well. So I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to just paint some color. And I think Linda had some pictures of a couple of days out there where definitely the lawn has been taken over by 4-legged and 2-legged people. Um,
Can we
Max?
share those? Can we share those pictures?
Yes, we're going to. Max,
Okay.
can you give Linda the opportunity to share her
Yeah, you
screen?
have to make me a host and I can share
Try now.
them. Okay. Let's hope this works. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Oops, let me see. I'm gonna share. Oh, Max, I'm so not good at this. Let me try this again. I'm sharing my screen. And I put them on my desktop and they should work now. Okay, let's see. There we go. And these are from Robin and they're spectacular.
We're not seeing them, Linda. You have to share the screen, the green button.
I did hit the green button. Let's try this again. Okay, I'm hitting the green button again, sharing the screen. So let's see if this should work. Can you
Oh,
see it?
there
now?
you go.
There we go.
Yes.
Very good.
Okay. So, and then there's another one. Let me try and get to that because these are really great that Robin took, by the way. Let's see. Okay. And dog run. Here's another one. So these are the ones I have. Okay. Can you see these?
We see that first one.
Okay.
Click next to it on the bottom where there's the small little thumbnail of it. I think.
Yeah,
see-
just click on the other one.
Okay, here we go. Oh, heck. It always looks so easy when other people do it, by the way. I'm clicking. Well, anyway, I think you get the idea here.
At the bottom of your screen, you see two little thumbnails. Click on the other one.
I'm clicking them. I'm clicking like mad, my dear.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's not opening for whatever reason. I'm so sorry, but I think you get an idea. I for some reason I couldn't get the video up there, so that was I think I think that the most pronounced one, the one that's really okay.
Can Max assist with getting these shown to the committee? Because I think it's pretty important.
I don't know.
If you can email them to me,
Yeah, Max, I can do that. Okay.
or I can.
okay, yeah, that works. Let me.
I only have the two right now. Let's see what happened.
All right, why don't we go on to the next
Okay, let's
speaker?
move on.
And
I think
and-
this one picture gives 1,000 words. So
Yeah, okay. So Glenn, did you want to speak?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, hi, I'm Glenn Siegel, speaking. I live on 81st Street. I'm a resident. I think I'm an original member of TRIPNA and also happen to be a member of the Friends, but I'm really speaking now as an 81st Street resident. I think Steve and Robin did a great job, so I really have very little to add other than I've lived on the block for 30 years. I think I've been in front of the community board half a dozen times only on this issue. So just to give you some context, we're not a bunch of complainers. We're all people of goodwill. We live on a block. We're well aware that it's a crosstown block and there are ambulances and buses. But for those of us who endure the sound and the piercing sound and their statistics and concrete readings, it really does undermine the quality of life when it comes to sleep, talking, having dinner. And so we are here to really try to solve a problem and be proactive. I do want to say, while I think Friends has done a great job, the park is especially challenging because of the different group, the museum and the parks department and the dog run folks. It creates additional bureaucracy. And while everyone owns a piece of the park, often there are times where no one owns or can get to the answer. So I do wholly support it. It was Steve's idea to work with the dog run folks with hopefully full support of everyone else, fully support Barbara's resolution to solve some of the problems in the near term, and thank everybody who has come here to try to help us. Thank you.
I'm going to try and do wouldn't let me do this. Damn.
Could you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let me, I found the video. Let me see if I can try and play it again. Let's see if you can hear this. Can everybody see that?
Linda, I
Can't
think you
see
have to
it.
unshare
see
and
a
then share
picture.
again.
You know what? If you send it to Max, Max will work on it. And
Sure.
Max, if you could take this screen down so that, because Peter Wright is going to speak next, and there's a presentation that I'm going to show with him.
I am not quite sure how to take someone else's full screen down. Mark, if you're here, do you have any thought on that?
Easiest way, you can do it, but the easiest way is for Linda to hit the big red button at the top of her screen.
Mhm.
Okay, the big stop share. Okay, here we go.
Yeah,
There you go.
okay, there we go.
Let me
All
try
right.
one more time, guys, and then I'll get out of your way. The photos, here it is. I have the, oh, here we go. Here we go. And here's the video. Okay, this should be doing it. Okay. Did everybody see that?
There's
No.
nothing to see.
No.
No, we
Sorry.
heard it though. We heard
Your
the dog.
screen is not shared, Linda. You're off screen share.
I'm on shared screen now.
No, you're not.
I'm not?
No,
Okay.
now you are.
There we go.
All
Yeah.
right, that's your calendar.
I
Get rid
know.
of it.
Yeah. I'm having a bitch of a time doing this. I'm sorry.
Well, we get to see what your meetings are.
Yeah,
Prodigious. Oh, it stopped sharing again. You know what? Let's continue the meeting. You get the idea. It's terrible what everybody's going through.
Yeah.
Okay.
all right. I can vouch for the fact that I saw a photo that Robin had taken a while ago with at least 10 or 15 dogs all clustered together. It was an amazing photo, but we weren't able to find it for this meeting. So I'd like to call next on Peter Wright, who is the longtime president of Friends of Roosevelt Park. And Peter, you want to, I'll share my screen now, and as you talk, I'll change the slides, okay?
Okay. Good evening, all 60 of you, from what I see. I am going to address one of the two issues and only one. And I am going to address 80% of what I'm going to talk about has to do with solutions and not problems. We are in a unique situation in that ours is maybe the only dog run in Manhattan, which was built up against the garage wall of the renovated or the new planetarium. Therefore, as Steve pointed out, catapulting sound off the wall across to buildings on 81st Street. And going back 15 years, a well-regarded acoustics engineering firm, Cerami, C-E-R-A-M-I, set noise meters in various apartments on 81st Street and confirmed that the decibel level of the sound catapulting into the apartments is way above audible street noise, and technically it's illegal. Okay, and so we went on for, I don't know, 10 years, knowing more about the problems and less about the solutions. In 2000, and I guess it was 18 or 19, we re-engaged Cerami, the Friends did, and said, look,
Peter, why don't you follow this?
all right,
You know?
okay. Okay, so here are the various methods. Barbara, do you want to move on the various methods to solve the problem?
Okay.
Okay. As you can see that garage wall, right? And the sound just hits it and boom, goes across. So the first thing we looked at were planting evergreen bushes against the garage wall as a way of deadening the sound. And as you can see with that blue emphasis there, the engineer said aesthetically, yes, but deadening of sound, no. Okay. Barbara, you want to go back to that picture of the tree? Yeah, they look good. They look great, but didn't work or wouldn't work. Okay. So let's go to the next solution possible. There's something called an acoustic fence, which is a sound absorbent material, which can be attached to the chain link fence as Barbara shows you here. The problem, aside from the fact it's pretty ugly, is that it only deadens sound to the height of the fence, which is, Barbara, what do you figure? 5 feet, 4 feet? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that, 5 feet maybe.
Yeah, so practically speaking, that wouldn't work either.
Oh, it's 4 feet, so sorry.
4 feet, yeah, so it just plain wouldn't work. Okay, let's move on. We also, let's see, suggestion 3, the top 9 that are proposed trees. All right, well, we can move on from there. They are aesthetic, they could be used to screen. And we then came to another solution, which is the installation of transparent barriers, which will be in front of the dog run, 10 feet high, running the length of the dog run. And Cerami did a computer simulation and determined that putting in the transparent barrier would reduce the noise 50%, which is 50% more than we'd ever had before. At an installed cost for 250 feet of dog run fence, at a cost of about $300,000 installed. We have a written quote from somebody, and our returned city council person, Gail Brewer, has put that money into the city budget. So let's move on to the last.
Okay, so here's
there's a sound barrier. That is a dog park in Arlington, Virginia. It's pretty aesthetic, I think you'd agree. And they've done transparent barriers along roads. One of them has done transparent barrier along the Tappan Zee Mario Cuomo Bridge up the Hudson, many places. So let's go to the next slide. And you can see all the different things that they've done. Okay. We've spoken to Durasol, one of the suppliers is mentioned here, and we've spoken to another. Okay. And now let's move to the fourth possibility. Here you see Gail. Yeah. Barbara, anything?
No, I just thought you might want to.
Yeah, you can see the quoted cost of $304,000 that Gail has put $300,000 into wherever it is. Should we go this way? And that's on the left. That is a quote. You see, $304,000 for the 10-foot high on the left description,
including the pilings that would be
including
needed.
the pilings, and what Barbara is showing you is an actual quote.
Right.
Okay. All right. 20 years ago or more, and I don't remember this, but Commissioner Castro and I don't know if it was Linda Alexander, maybe. Were you involved, Linda?
Yeah, but it was Adrian Benepe. It was a long time ago, and we closed the park every day and the dog run at 10 p.m. It opened at 6:30 or 7. Jan can confirm, but we closed it every day at 10 p.m. I think 9 p.m. is reasonable, is even more reasonable, but we always closed it.
Right, and that is not done obviously at Bull Moose, but it is done in a number of Manhattan locations. For example, Columbus Park, which is down behind the Tombs, the jail, and the entrance to Chinatown. Some of you may know it. It's part basketball court and part park where Chinese folk play cards and dominoes, and that is closed at night around, I think it's 10 p.m. and it's opened around 7 a.m. And it is not opened by PEPs. It's opened by what a CPW, it's a city park worker. It is open and closed by these folks. And the advantage of this is, in effect, it has zero cost. And we can change whatever we do day to day. If the hours are this or that, we can change it on a minute's notice. So at this point, and this concludes my presentation, our feeling about the dog run, and I'm not going to address the surface issue. There are a lot of things going on about that we haven't got time to talk about, but that we think that this proposal is the most practical, most economic, and we hope that we get support from Commissioner Castro. Give it a shot. And that means, yeah, they'll be barking up to a certain hour. 81st Street folks are willing to tolerate that, but not at midnight and not at 6:30 in the morning. So that's all I have to say. Barbara, is there anything else you think that we ought to? Yeah, I've discussed this with you.
No, not for now. I think that was great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So, Elaine or Jane or Jan from people who are dog owners and use the run, would you like to talk?
Elaine, would you like to begin? I do want to talk, but Elaine, I
Sure.
defer to you if you'd like to begin.
Ready to defer to each other, but I'll just chime in that I don't disagree with anything anyone's presented here so far. As a user of the dog run and someone who everyone here knows, I think worked very hard over the last 5 years of the project to get it sorted out. It's a very important resource, and we'd like to be good members of the community. And I value Teddy Roosevelt Park as well. I agree with the problems that have been stated here. It's very disheartening to me to see people on the lawn after we work so hard to give them this great resource, and I'd like to solve that as well. So I think the most useful thing that I can say is that having worked with the community to try to bring about the renovation of the drainage and the surface, my experience is that anything you're trying to do to improve a situation in this dog run, it needs to be something that is by design, and it needs to be systemic. Any idea that depends upon individuals who use it to behave differently or to police each other is not going to work. If you could mute that. I wish it would, but it's a very disjointed community. Yes, we have Facebook. Yes, we have a distribution list, but that's a very small percentage of the people who actually use it. And I would characterize most of the people who bring their dogs into Teddy Roosevelt Park as complete strangers. They're just fellow city members in the neighborhood who have dogs. So there's nobody on this call or anybody anywhere who has power over these individuals to change their behavior. So to fix the problem, I like the suggestions here there because they are solutions by design that don't depend upon individuals policing each other or saying, hey, get off the lawn, because we're just not out there all the time, and who's going to listen to us? So I think all the things identified, the fencing, the signage, having uniformed park workers actually issuing tickets, that would get around pretty quickly. I have mentioned things to my fellow dog run users, and they all look at me and they go, we don't know the people who are doing that. So it's not a community thing, it's a systemic design thing. And I would add that I think the surface of the renovation is contributing to the lawn problem. I think that the dogs find the pebbles irritating. The rice gravel that was used instead of pea gravel is very sharp. I can say my own dog has not been injured, but ever since the renovation, she walks in, she stands there, she doesn't run around, and then she leaves. So it's just not, the surface is not hospitable to dogs. And I imagine that is encouraging people to just go across and get on the lawn, which is a problem. So that's sort of my 2 cents. Jan, if you want to take it up.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. And to start with, I am on the side of the people who hate the barking. According to Psychology Today, 20 to 40% of the general population doesn't like a lot of noise. 12 to 15% is highly noise sensitive. I'm in the 12%. I find the barking intolerable. And so I agree with that. One of the things I disagree with all due respect, Peter, changing if the dog run gets locked, changing it from day to day is not going to fly, because people who are used to it being open at 7 a.m. and they come and it's not open till 8 are not going to be happy, and the city's going to hear about it. So there's that. The tall plexiglass barrier, or the clear barrier, is very intriguing to me. I think that cutting the noise by 50% is great, but in my view, half of the existing noise is still too much noise. Yeah, the surface, and here I want to take a deep breath and make a public amends. I am a fossil, and I go back to the very, very beginning of the renovation. I spearheaded it. Yeah, Linda remembers. Linda and I go way, way back. And Linda and I go back to where, and here I'm jumping around. Elaine, I love you, but I strongly disagree with your contention that peer pressure doesn't work. Linda will back me up. Peer pressure does work.
We had the noise patrol.
What's that, Linda?
We had the noise patrol. We had
the noise patrol,
and the noise patrol.
And this happened when we first spearheaded the renovation, when the run was awful. And we got everybody psyched, and we organized, and we had meetings, and we had fundraisers, and we had parties, and it was a love fest. And we monitored. We didn't police each other. We monitored each other, and we said things like, "You heard about the renovation. We're going to get a new dog run, but you know what? We have an agreement with the neighborhood. We got to control our dogs. Come on, it's just too much." And it did work, and the noise was way, way down. I'm not saying it's the only solution, but I think it is critical to establish community, because it does work. I think the pivotal way we can establish community is to complete the renovation. Here's where I need to make the public amends, guys. Jane and I, the two remaining members of the original board that was voted in to work on the renovation, were working with Gail Brewer's office last year, and to put in the artificial grass that was in the original proposal that got knocked off because of the Parks Department and their delays. And then when they started the renovation, the inflation, and they didn't have the money. It's a long story, I'll spare you. So at any rate, we came very, very close. We had gotten down to where we had interviewed a number of installers. We had narrowed it down. I was writing this long treatise on this one is good for this, and that one's good for that. We were very, very close to completing the city putting in artificial turf. It was a go. And then I got ill. You know, COVID has been devastating for most of us. And but when I heard that this was going on, I'm like, I got to rally, and I would really like to pick up where we left off. And Gail Brewer is going to be back in a good place for us, for the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And she was a big supporter of us early on with the renovation. And I think a combination of making the dog run habitable for people and their dogs, and building community based on that, and maybe pursuing this barrier. But let me just throw in, the barrier and locking the run is not going to solve the noise issue, because people are still going to come to Theodore Roosevelt Park. And whether or not they break into the fences, which they probably will, unless you have a 24-hour guard, people are going to use the lawn, because anytime you come to the TR Park, if there are 3 people in the dog run, there are probably 15 people on the lawn, because that's the percentage of people who hate that run, and their dogs cannot tolerate it, and they cannot tolerate it, is that great. So repairing the surface, ideally with this artificial grass. And once again, spare all the research on that. But the funding is in place. There were $192,000 of the original budget were not spent. The project came in way under budget. And that part of our proposal last year was saying, hey, you know, where's our $190,000? I know it's not ours, it's the city's, but it was earmarked for the dog run renovation. And it wouldn't take that much more. Our estimates for the artificial turf, some of them were around $192,000, believe it or not. Some were more. So there you have it. That I say, finish the renovation properly, get a community built, do the barrier if that's doable. And I do think that a little bit of strategic ticketing might work. It worked for me many years ago. I got busted in the middle of the night because I'm a night owl, and my dogs were off the leash. They were not digging up the lawn. I was picking up after them, but I got busted because the gardener ratted me out. At any rate, I was hauled into Midtown Manhattan Community Court on the hottest day of the year, came home with a sunburn because there wasn't room inside. My case was dismissed because I was humble, but I was given a warning, don't do it again, and there won't be a record of this. The point is, I didn't do it again. So yeah, so ticketing or summoning people into court is very effective because, yes, Elaine is right, word gets out. So them's my $50 worth of 2 cents.
Thank you, Jan. That was excellent. And also, thank you, Elaine. Yours was excellent as well. I really appreciate you both being here tonight. Now, I know Mark texted that he thinks he can show Robin's video. So maybe we should just do that. And I see that Commissioner Castro is here, and I'm delighted. So let's see this video first.
We couldn't hear anything. Was there any sound?
No, there was no sound with it, but we heard the sound the first time around. So you have to put the two pieces together.
What's the date on this video?
I'll check. I have a lot, but I can get you what that one is. I think it's from September 2021.
So it's during the pandemic. Thanks.
It's relatively recent.
Yeah, I mean, I have a picture from almost every day, but I think that one was September.
The sound that I had on that video was just air going across the microphone. There wasn't, speaking or anything.
We will submit to the committee a dozen images and videos for you to review as you see appropriate, because obviously the technology challenge is too great at the moment. But I think it is important for you to see these, and we'll provide them within the next 2 days so that everyone can look at them who would like to.
Okay, Linda, you've had your hand raised, and then Peter.
Okay, simply, I see Sergeant Parks is here. So when people are on the lawns, and I know we don't have PEP anymore. We don't have PEP, okay? The city completely decimated that budget. So we don't have the
No,
park.
that's not true at all. No, Linda, that's totally incorrect.
Oh, good. I'm
But
glad.
go ahead. I'd like to respond
Because
when you allow me to.
I'd love it, because Captain Gallagher said that he didn't have PEP, so I assumed that was pertinent to Theodore Roosevelt Park. But I'm just saying, if they're on the lawn, aren't they trespassing? And could the T2O come in there and help out? Because I think enforcement is really important, and we had it 25 years ago. Now I'm going to be quiet.
Let me know when I can respond, all right?
Now.
Okay, thank you. I've been listening the entire almost hour now, and I want to thank everyone for being here and caring about this. It's a real pain in the neck. I understand that, and I appreciate everything that everybody has said. It's very helpful. So let me say a couple of things, what we're going to do. First of all, I've asked the Capital Division to replace the surface. I've done that months ago. I got an update on it, and the supplier still doesn't have the desired surface, the one that we scoped out and was asked for. But so we don't have that available now. But I think we should look into an alternative surface that can be used. The problem with the bids that so anyway, I'm committed to doing that. We're going to get a different surface, and I think it was well put. I could see how that could contribute to a worsening of things, of giving people reasons to want to go out of the dog run. And then, of course, Katie bar the door, so to speak, and people have their dogs running all over the place. All right, so that's one of the problems. It'll take some time to do that. Now, in terms of how much money is available, I checked into that. It doesn't seem that the 200,000 is necessarily still there, in the sense that some of it is, after all the accounting of this and drainage, sometimes there are additional costs that have to be addressed that haven't been paid out. So we're still looking at that, but the report I got showed significantly less than that. However, we still have the $200,000 that the borough president allocated, and as now that she's the council member for this area, clearly that's in play. But whatever we do, we want to get the surface changed so that everyone's happy with it. That was the intent through no fault of Parks. The supplier didn't have it anymore during the pandemic for all those reasons we're familiar with. But that doesn't mean we won't correct it. So that I'm working on, number one. Number two, in the immediate, as I mentioned to Barbara earlier today on a phone call, I am going to send the Park Enforcement Patrol in, which has actually expanded, Linda, and its budget is bigger than ever. And I will send them in to address the nighttime barking, the use of the lawns day and night, the damaging of fencing that I've been alerted to, and taking down of signs, what have you, get those signs back up, and a good ticket blitz, as anyone who's ever gotten a ticket knows, and certainly one person here has gotten a ticket, if not all of us, it's definitely gets your attention. And I've done this. We had a problem in an East Side Park where people were abusing the privilege, and we brought our Park Enforcement Patrol in, and they quickly changed things around. So I have told this to Barbara. I'm telling you that we will start this, if not this week, which I would like to do, and I will find out tomorrow morning if we can. And then if it does snow, which we think it will on Saturday, we'll still get them out there on Monday. And I'm sure the dogs will go out onto the snow and all of that kind of thing. So the snow may stick around for a while if the temperatures stay down. But if we've got the barking problem, obviously, and then going in areas where they shouldn't be. So we will start the PEP enforcement both in the daytime and in the evening, and we'll put them on extra hours, on overtime if necessary, to address the late night, the 11, 12 hour midnight instances, and we'll work on this. The third thing, I want to engage the dog run, and I take the comments about, it's very difficult, it's a disparate group, and believe me, I could understand that. But I think it is good, however, to try and get more of a grasp of who the leadership and what leadership we need there, but certainly educating everyone in a friendly way that they have to exercise control on the dogs barking. And that's one thing I need the help from the dog owners community as how to control your dogs. How do you keep them from barking to a reasonable extent? And I want to work on that right away on this education issue, and schedule a meeting or whatever, or communication with folks. And I hope you can help me reach out and how to do that, so we can have a series of discussions online with them, or however we do it, because we want to work with them. And because barking at any hour, believe me, I understand, it's very difficult. So we have a lot of work to do. I want to work with everyone on this. I'm very committed to this. The wall is an interesting idea. I have my own doubts, having walked along a park on the east side, East River Esplanade, with noise attenuating walls, and they don't attenuate anything from the highway sound. Now, I don't know about dogs, but I have my doubts as to how effective that would be, even if it's a 10-foot wall. It may reduce it. Yes, that I could see, but probably still significant is my guess. And our cost estimates are much higher, unfortunately, than the ones you get. That's typical. It's not that there was a defect in your bids or anything. The city has additional requirements, and it's a whole routine. And basically, things are fairly expensive. So that figure you were given, 300,000, whatever, our capital people saw it as more than that, like double that amount. And in any case, it's still an interesting thing to look at, and we appreciate your efforts in getting the studies and the proposal. So I'll end it there. Happy to take any questions, but I hear what you're saying. As Bill Clinton once said, I feel your pain. I really do. I have a very noisy bar below my building, and I know how annoying noise can be. So we will try to address this in a variety of ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Peter, Natasha, and then Glenn.
Bill, thank you for all of these thoughts and suggestions. But the one thing which ended what I had to say, which apparently was something in effect back in 1998 or something, is the idea of closing the dog run at some time and opening it early. And just as a footnote to Jan, I wasn't talking about changing the opening and closing every day. I'm just saying that we have flexibility in terms of establishing those times. But I don't mean that on Tuesday it's 9 p.m. on Wednesday it's 8 p.m. I'm just saying it's something at no cost that you can change as you learn. But Bill, what are your thoughts on doing that?
Yeah, thank you. I have been thinking quite a lot about it, and I've been talking about it now with the up the chain of command at Parks. It's something that we're going to, I'm going to work on with the agency right now. Basically, dog runs have essentially, I've done some checking on this in Manhattan, and I know in the Bronx, and I'm checking on the other boroughs. But so far, basically, they close when the parks close at that hour. But you know, that works out pretty well if it's not near residences, right? Because you know, nobody hears it. But when it comes to sound and it's near a residential area, then it becomes something that needs attention. So, but that is what it has been, that the dog runs have not closed earlier. But we do have playgrounds that close earlier, and other sections of parks occasionally close earlier than the rest of it. So I'm beginning to look, going through this with the parks hierarchy to explore this further. And that's not a diplomatic answer, that's the real answer. Because if we act on this, then we want to have thought it through and see if there's any impact on other dog runs or parks, et cetera. So everything has to be considered, but I'll report back to you on this maybe at the next monthly meeting.
Fantastic, thank you. Natasha, and then Glenn, and then Elizabeth.
You know, I can go after all other committee members have spoken. I can wait.
Okay, Elizabeth then?
Sure, and if there's somebody who's not from the committee or from the board who wants to speak, I'm happy to let them go first. My questions, thank you everyone for the presentation. Many of you know I am a longtime dog owner. I'm a frequent visitor to the dog run. I think all the questions and comments have been really valid, and clearly there seem to be two issues, right? There's the issue of what's happening beyond the dog run within the park, which clearly needs addressed immediately. And then there's the issues within the dog run themselves. My question comes back to what I think somebody very aptly said at the very beginning of this conversation, which was about the number of new dog owners there are in this city. And when I think about quality of life, I think about quality of life, both for people who have lived in this neighborhood for a long time and live along the block. Clearly, it's been an issue for many, many decades. But I also think about people who are new to the neighborhood and who maybe don't know the rules. And so my thought is there anything constructive from this conversation tonight that we can move forward for some of these new people? When I looked at those photos, I think a lot of those folks, as people mentioned, are not people who are longtime residents here. They may have just moved here. They may have a new dog. They may not know what the rules are. I didn't know what the rules were when I moved here 25 years ago. So I'm just wondering, whether it's a QR code at the front of the dog run or the entrance to the park for people who are of a different generation than many of us who want to sort of know the rules. Enforcement is a great idea. But I also think many of these people would be perfectly happy to follow the rules if they just knew what they were. So that's my comment for this tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Elaine, did you want to add something?
I wanted to answer Elizabeth. That's a great question. And I'm sorry that I'm the cynic who says I can't control my community. But what I did learn is, the rules are posted on the dog run. So first of all, you have to assume that using the dog run is a priority rather than going on the grass, because they're not even going to see the sign about what the rules are until they get to the dog run. Then the rules are many and they're in small font. One of the rules is that you need to discourage excessive barking, and if your dog is excessively barking, you need to remove your dog from the run until they calm down. Despite that being up there, it remains a problem. And to learn from another example, there's also something on that sign that says pick up after your dog. A lot of people don't, especially the dog walkers. I think they come in and think this is a break. They sit there and look at their phone. The dog does their business everywhere. I repeatedly go in there and will pick up 20 piles. So in order to educate people, at least on the dog waste issue, what I started doing was putting up little hand-painted signs that isolated that issue, so that when people were in the dog run, they would see, and it would be a reminder, hey, you're supposed to pick up after your dog. So I don't think that big sign of 20 rules, nobody pays attention to it. I mean, there's things on there about unfixed males, there's things on there, I mean, people don't read it. So if the noise is an issue, I think we could use more signs that say, discourage excessive barking. I'm almost thinking like in Central Park, the signs on the trees that say, please hug me, that are bright green, and they suddenly show up on a tree. Putting signs like that in the lawn area, for example, that say, you're not supposed to be in here and you could get a ticket, would get noticed better than a sign back on the fence that nobody's looking at because they're not even using the dog run. Just
100%. My comment was just that I think people are not flagrantly, I think they just need a very direct knowledge of what the enforcement is. And I think the behavior will be curtailed. It happens in Central Park with dogs there. I'll leave it there. But that I agree with you on Elaine on what you're saying.
I apologize, Glenn. I forgot you.
No worries. I guess I just want to respond to what Commissioner Castro said. I appreciate the good intent, but I think we need concrete solutions. Locking the dog run is concrete, where enforcement, which we appreciate, is truly important also, but it would have to be vigilant. And I think we need design solutions. I think we need concrete. Locking it does in fact at least create a scenario where after a certain time, there's no noise, and it's objective. So I would just support that. And then I would just ask one other thing. In terms of the specifications for the acoustical barrier, I guess I would just like to ask, not at this time, but I'm a little bit familiar with development. I'd love to have the opportunity to understand what your capital folks were seeing in terms of doubling that 200, because it does sound like an extraordinary cost to me. But that's later. but I think
Yeah.
concrete solutions, so that we need both, right? They're not mutually exclusive, peer pressure and a good organized kind of structure for the dog run, but also concrete solutions, I think, every time.
Yeah, well, I'll check on the costs. So that's a fair comment. I'm just telling you that believe it or not, that time and again is a problem from what people getting bids and then they don't consider certain things. But I'm happy to get that information for you. And I'm in favor of taking action. I always like to take action. And I've learned that it's good also to talk with people beyond what you may have originally wanted to do, because you learn a lot from them, and you build up trust and a relationship, even with people who may be violating the rules and regulations. It's good to talk to them. They may not know, as one lady said, or the signage. The agency's policy changed, and they put these they were trying to cut down on unnecessary signs. And yes, people don't tend to read the laundry list of rules, and they see it, but they don't read it. And but we have some limits on that, but we can put some additional signs in a limited way. We'll see. But again, signs only go so far, and it really does take enforcement. And the closing of the run physically at a certain time, but then you do have the spillover that we'd still have to address people. So I think it's going to take time. I'm not saying a long time, I don't really know, but between education and enforcement, and I agree with everyone who said this, compliance does result. It does have an impact. Both the educational aspect and the enforcement will make a difference. And you don't have to be 100% successful, as somebody once said, to be successful. If we get 80% compliance and reduction, and I like what was said about the barking and have to control your dog on the sign, we will explore that and act on it. And it's going to take time, but I think we can make an impact on this quickly within the next few weeks. And we will stay on it. And I'm happy to come back to the board on a monthly basis or what have you, or speak in a separate group. It's important. I know how aggravating this can be.
Thank you, Bill. That would be amazing. I'd like to call on Jonathan, who hasn't spoken yet, and then if any board members have any comments or questions before I call on people who have spoken multiple times. So, Jonathan.
Yeah, hi, my name is Jonathan Lipnick. I am one of the founding members of the West 81st Street Block Association between Central Park West and Columbus. I just want to thank everyone for coming together to address the issue, to Barbara, Community Board 7, and to the leadership of Theodore Roosevelt Park Neighborhood Association, and Steve Anderson, and Robin and Glenn, and all of our partners here this evening to address the problem of the dog run. I live on 81st Street. I'm a board member of the Beresford on the corner of 81st Street and Central Park West. My apartment faces the Theodore Roosevelt Park, and I at night, late at night, I hear dogs barking, and it's coming from the dog run, and it's early in the morning, and it's coming from the dog run, and I like to open up my windows. I don't want to live. I love the sense of air and neighborhood, and it's a nuisance. And I'm strongly in favor of regulating the hours of the dog run. I think it's a good idea. All hours of the day is unacceptable, and we're coming up with solutions to try to reduce the noise. But at 12:30 at night, when I want to go to sleep, I just think that's unfair. And triple paned windows aren't the answer. I don't have triple paned windows. So we live in a neighborhood, and you can kind of be a little deceived because where the dog run is located in relation to 81st Street and all of the cooperatives on the block, but the sound carries, and it's too much. So let's put in some rules, and let's work together to make a better dog run and a better park for dog users and for everyone that enjoys this really beautiful green space that we all cherish. So I just want to thank everybody for their goodwill to come up with some solutions to an ongoing problem. That's it for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to have to start wrapping this up. We're way over time already, so I'm going to call on Natasha, and then I'd like to hear from board members or anybody else who hasn't spoken yet who wants to say something.
Yeah, I just want to say I kind of am echoing everything that has already been said over here, especially about enforcement, ticketing blitz. All those things sound really like, if done all together, they would, I think, definitely yield some results. But Commissioner Castro, my only request is that when you do send these PEP officers out to enforce the noise issue, please also have them enforce the dog waste issue at the same time, because it is just really terrible behavior by dog owners. And just like no dog owner will admit that it's their dog that's barking and causing the issue and out of control, there's no dog owner who's going to admit that they did not pick up after their dog. And yet the parks and streets in our city are just overflowing. It's totally unfair and a total burden on the rest of us who don't own dogs. So please do also pay attention to that issue. Thank you.
Anyone else who has not yet spoken? Oh, well, okay. If
Barbara,
you're,
I'm sorry, Barbara,
Yes.
there's a person in attendees who's had her hand up, but
is Max here? Max, can you let that
Yes,
person in?
he's
Because I can't, I don't have any ability right
Oh.
now to do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, now I see two hands up. Well, I first did it for Helen, and now I'll do it for Jackie.
Okay, Helen?
Is that me?
Yes.
I suppose so. Okay, so thank you all for this. I live on 81st Street and I am absolutely crazed at the noise, and I'm also crazed at the contempt with which the people on the lawn treat anyone who dares to suggest to them that it is absolutely uncommunal to ruin a lawn for the sake of their dogs. They say, what difference does it make? They'll resod it in the spring. So I'm more concerned almost about the destruction of that lawn on 81st Street. And I still don't hear any solution from you to the problem of the lawn. What is to be, I mean, there's a signs up, they recently put signs up, Commissioner, the lawn is closed for something, and the signs have already been torn down.
Yeah, the solution is a summons book. The park enforcement, I totally agree with you. It's hard to understand why people violate these rules like this and with such, I don't know, arrogance, whatever you want to call it.
Thank you, right.
And yeah, and so when the park enforcement comes in very, very soon, the next few days, they will focus on this, and they will issue summonses, and it'll be, a sincere effort on a daily basis or every other day. We'll see as needed, let's say.
But they must be there after 5 o'clock. And in the spring, in the fall, you had people there who left at 5 o'clock. And
right. Yeah, no, we are flexible in our shifts. So I will have them both day and evening. And we'll blitz this, meaning we'll put a lot of officers on this in a concerted effort to try to remedy this fairly quickly. And then you keep the pressure on, and it doesn't mean once you've gotten compliance that you need to be there every day necessarily. But if you do for a while, that's what we do. And then we just keep enforcing to keep compliance. So that is the answer.
thank you. I hope you're correct, because it's
Okay.
very distressing.
Yes, I know.
Jackie, did you still want to speak? Jackie, if you do, you're muted. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hi.
good.
Hi. So I live on 81st Street. I live right across from directly across. I'm on the 10th floor. I really hear these dogs. And I really don't even, it doesn't even bother me that much during the day, but at night it's, I mean, I've been woken up, I'm having trouble sleeping for many reasons. And the minute a dog starts barking, it's like, you know, game over. Actually, I have 2 dogs and I go in there and it makes it even more insulting to see the people on the lawn because that looks amazing. Like I would love to let my dog run on the lawn, but I don't do that. So one question I have, I don't know if anyone, are there cameras?
No, I
mean,
don't think so.
security cameras aren't that much. They're kind of all over the place. So maybe it is too much, or maybe you could just have a fake one and say, you know, there are cameras watching, and it might make people think twice about doing something. I don't know. I mean, I've had so many complaints. I called 311. The letter they sent back was, you know, said we received your complaint about your neighbor. And I spent 20 minutes on the phone talking about the park.
Yeah, no, you don't have to do that. Just call us. The cameras. No, I don't think it's necessary, and I really think you know, we're lucky. We have park enforcement. Many years ago, when I joined the Parks Department, I helped create it, and its job is to focus on these kinds of things. And we will do that. I mean, it was the holidays or whatever, and you know, the cold, and so now we're revving up again, and we will address this. I'll keep the board informed. I'll keep Peter Wright informed, and it's something that's doable, and we will address it. The barking, we're going to work on that in terms of if I can enforce against barking, you know, the unnecessary barking as the rules state, and we find a way to do that, and we'll do all of it.
Okay, no, that sounds great. There is a sign I've noticed in both parks, like the small one and the big one. There is one sign in each of those areas that says specifically excessive barking is, you know, not permitted, but it's just not in a good area. So maybe if you just put that exact sign, you know, on the entry gate, that would help. Because the sign is there, like the very specific sign is there, but it doesn't.
Yeah, we'll add it.
Is there any change to the fencing on the lawn planned?
Well, we talked about this, Barbara and I, today a little bit. I'll take a look at it tomorrow. I'll go over and take a look at the fencing, and Matt Genrich, our very able manager, has also been on this call, and he and I will take a look at it and see if there are any changes that need to be done. Usually the range fencing that we use is very good. I'm aware that sometimes people open it or whatever, or step on it. That's not acceptable, and we will address that too. But I found that when you do regular enforcement on a regular basis, you find that things calm down, and people realize they can't do this. So let's give it a few weeks, see what our enforcement efforts bring, and we'll repair any fencing that is damaged. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Steve, if you have another comment, please make it very brief, and then we're going to go into committee discussion.
Thank you, Barbara. I will be brief. Bill, we've been at this a long time. We've had many discussions. You've heard tonight from several of my neighbors on 81st Street. We're still in it. We're still trying to find the way. We've had many assurances. Sometimes it's like deja vu all over again. You know, we are counting on you. We need you to be in touch with us regularly. The Block Association gets dozens of complaints all the time. Matt hears from us. We send videos. We've really reached the overboard stage where we really need to lean on you to come through with what sound like some very good provisions if they are followed through, and if all the other reasons that previously have prevented some very good ideas from your offices and others from coming through don't get in the way. I hope we can hold you to the fire to actually make this happen. We need your help. We need your help now. It has gotten much worse than when you and I were much younger people talking about this years and years ago. Okay, so now is the time, and I'm trying to be respectful and appreciative, but also to implore you to please work with us and let us figure out a way forward. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And you know, I'm asking you now, please send me a letter with, chapter and verse, with testimony, so to speak, from the people who were here today. The more of these complaints and specifics that we have, it strengthens my case for taking the different actions and future action, and a resolution from the board or whatever, or any of the things you would like to do or normally do in situations like this. I welcome it. It fills in any questions that people might have as I work this through, and I want to hear.
We will provide that to you, and please
Okay.
share with us about the scheduled enforcement provisions so we could assure the people of 81st Street that in fact the Parks Department is planning to take action to address these issues, and let them feel confident too that it's not falling on deaf ears. So thanks
Good.
again.
Okay, so committee members now, we have drafted a resolution, which I'm going to show you, but I'd like to know whether you're basically in favor of the things that you've heard tonight and getting enforcement, and what shall I show you the resolution? Anybody? Comments?
This is policy, and I have a comment, Barbara. I'm definitely in favor of the enforcement plan. Listening to everything, because I typed questions in the chat in regards to signage, and if anyone had reached out to the new dog owners. And also, I had a question about the absorbing wall, but that was answered. So for me, I feel the best approach right now is for the commissioner to enforce the actions that I mentioned. So I believe that's the best solution to address all of the issues that were spoken of tonight.
You were breaking up a lot, Polly, so it was hard to really understand everything you were saying. But yeah, Ken?
What I said.
Wait, Polly,
I
this
was in
is
favor
Max.
Oh,
Vanderbeek.
sorry.
If you're able to-
Yes, in favor of
if you're able to
enforcement.
turn your camera off, we'll be able to hear you better, actually.
Okay. What I said was that I'm in favor of the commissioner's actions plan to address all of the issues that were mentioned tonight in regard to trespassing on the lawn, the signage issue, and the fact that the PEP officers will speak, I'm quite sure, to the new dog owners, and explain to them the rules if they're not aware of it. So I just feel that that's the best approach right now to solve all of the problems that were mentioned tonight.
Thank you. Ken, and then Daniela?
Yeah, the whole time I've been thinking that we don't really need a resolution right now, that Commissioner Castro has laid out a lot of things.
He's asked me for a resolution.
He wants
I
a
think he would like
resolution.
one.
All right. Well, if he wants it.
He said it would
but-
be helpful.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, usually we do resolutions when we're trying to get a agency to do something, and they're actually doing what I think we would put in a resolution.
Well, the resolution calls for a few other things as well, so
Okay. Well,
I'll show it to
love
you.
see it. Yeah.
Sure. And Daniela?
Yeah, agreed. I'd like to also see the resolution prior to approving.
Oh, of course.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Yeah, because I think I agree with also what Commissioner Castro has laid out. And just would want to make sure that it's still, that we don't inadvertently restrict the use of the dog run, so just to discourage certain dog owners from using it. I think there's a lot of work that can be done and a lot of, kind of a positive solution here. But again, just I wouldn't want to unwittingly go overboard with the restrictions. So that's kind of my point of view, and that's why I would want a chance to review and see what's in there. So
thank you. Susan?
I wholeheartedly support this, Barbara. Thank you very much for all of your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and show you the resolution. And can you guys read it yourself? Can you see that?
Any chance you can enlarge it a little bit?
Well, maybe. I'm going to try.
If you click on view.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
Okay. All right, there. How's that?
Great.
Okay, let me know when I should scroll down.
Call the question.
Okay, all those in favor? All committee members in favor only. Five. Opposed? Committee members only opposed? Sorry, I don't have the ability to lower all hands, so sorry. Danielle, you're opposed? Okay. I think that's the whole committee, so,
I'm abstaining. I'm on the committee.
oh, okay. One, sorry. And 0.
Non-committee members?
Non-committee board members,
Hey, sir, how you doing? Just got to go on.
board members only.
Can I call you back?
Sure.
All right.
1, 2, 3. 3 in favor. Anybody opposed? Linda, you want to put your hand down? No, nobody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay. And not voting for cause? No one, right? Okay, so the committee is 5110 and non-committee board members is 3000. And thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming and thank you for talking tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Good night.
And Commissioner
We-
Castro,
We
thank
appreciate
you
it
so
very
much for
much.
being here tonight. This was really, it was
Of course.
wonderful that you were here. Really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Let this be the beginning of a new productive chapter. We sure hope so on 81st Street, with appreciation to all of you.
You know,
Thank
my
you.
motto, never give up. Never
And-
give up.
You're all welcome to stay for our second item, which is.
No, thank you.
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
Uh,
Good night and
Wow,
good
thanks,
luck.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone. I'm on your side, even though I'm a dog person.
I'm sorry, I don't know, did somebody, who said that?
Jan Applebaum, I'm on your side.
Oh, I abstained only because I think I need to learn more information about the rules on the,
Oh, I'm sorry, you misunderstood. I'm commenting that as a member of the Bulmer's Dog Run Committee, I am on the side of the people who want to get things in hand.
I had discussed earlier today my comments and what was in the resolution with Bill, and he felt that it was important to keep everything in there, even though we may not get everything that we want. But so he said it would be helpful to him in terms of presenting it. So that is why
that would have been my only question. I don't want to go into it, but I'm prepared to support it at the full board, maybe with a question or two. So
sure.
Do we want to talk for just a couple minutes about COP26 and some environmental issues before we all
Yes,
close it out for the night?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Take it away.
Sure. So look, those of you who know me, I've been on the board for over a decade now and really care about local issues. During my day job, I have worked for about the same time running work for the US government and the World Economic Forum, which is a global organization focused on working between public and private to improve a lot of issues. And one of those issues has been looking at the issues related to climate change and sustainability. And I remember, I think when I first joined the board, this committee, the Parks and Environment Committee was actually Parks and Preservation. And then it split up, and the Parks and Environment, it was always this balancing act because we have the blessings of having so many amazing parks on the Upper West Side and in our neighborhood that we spend a lot of time talking about, including tonight, that we sometimes don't spend a lot of time talking about environmental issues and climate change. I am by far from an expert, but I did wanted to open up a conversation tonight about how we might be able to continue the conversation, maybe even having items on the agenda once every 3 months that just really focus on environmental issues, and specific to what's been going on sort of around the world in the last, even in the last year. We obviously know we're coming out of a national presidency where climate was not a super big focus. We now have, Joe Biden as president. I think most people on this call, even though we're nonpartisan, would argue that he is doing more than his predecessor in the White House on these issues. We're also very fortunate that we have one of the leaders of the Commission for Environmental Quality has joined the White House and is the former Chief Sustainability Officer of New York City. And I would very much like to have him join us for a conversation at the community board at some point in the coming weeks. He still lives here. He lives in Washington Heights, so he's a neighbor to all of us, and has been really, really fantastic to work with, me professionally, and I'm happy to send you his information. But just to go into a couple of quick things that I wanted to reference tonight. A lot of people were asking what COP26 was all about, and back in November of this past year, am I on, is somebody not on mute? Sorry, I feel like I'm getting background noise, but I just want to make sure people can hear me. Sorry. Okay, thanks. So I just wanted to say that there, a lot of people are asking, these are very global goals that sort of the leaders at COP26 put out originally in Paris on the climate accords, and then every year since then where there have been global meetings. There are some things that are really important for cities that I really hope we can maybe have a conversation about as a community board. One is really looking at global initiatives that come down to cities on inclusive, sustainable growth. Another is on green buildings. Another is on systemic efficiency, and looking at how those things are going to work on the ecosystem here in the United States and in cities to make things work better. So I'm happy to answer any questions tonight. I didn't want this to be like a speech or a presentation, although I'm happy to do that at some point. But in looking at how cities have adapted to climate change, you can see across the United States and even across the world where there are areas within in the US and throughout the world that are doing it a lot better than New York is, and even on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis. So I know this is very general, but I wanted to just put it as an agenda item tonight so that we could start a conversation. I'm happy to share some of the research and data that has come from the organization I work for, the World Economic Forum, but also straight from COP26. We were, again, very fortunate that we had such successful participation from cities within the United States, including New York City. I don't know, I'll leave it there in the interest of time, but really hope we can have a chance to continue these conversations as a committee and even as a full board at some point, because it really is going to be quite important. So.
Thanks, Elizabeth, especially for being so brief.
I'm being very brief because when I used to run these meetings, I always wanted things to be brief. I mean, I really wanted this to be less of a presentation and more of a how our committee can really try to keep the focus as much as it is on our parks situation, also on what we're doing on climate change and the environment. So we just have a lot of resources, I think, at our disposal here on the Upper West Side, and would love to share them with you, and hope that we can have the person I was mentioning, Mark Chambers. I don't know if any of you know him, but he is now running the Green Buildings Initiative at the White House, and he is the former Chief Sustainability Officer for New York City. He has offered to join us for any upcoming meeting. I can pop his his bio in the chat if that would be helpful. But I think he would be a great person for us to try to have join us because he does know local neighborhoods in New York City, as well as sort of what's happening around the world. He was at COP26. He is far more of an expert than I am, but I do think that's a part of this committee that as we move forward as a board, hopefully we can really focus on. And there are relationships to parks, don't get me wrong. Trees and streetscapes and those types of things are all related to our parks as well. But I do think the environmental component is really important for the board right now. Yes, Ken, I saw your link. That is, thank you. So maybe, I don't know if people want to stay on and talk for a couple minutes. I have some data and information, but I didn't want to extend the meeting too much longer. If you all have questions or want, any sort of want to know what's happening in other parts of the world or other cities around the world, I'm happy to connect you to that tonight.
Elizabeth, I have my hand up, so I'm just going to briefly ask you a question. This is Holly Spain speaking. Is COP an acronym for organization? And then what is the priority focus right now, the #1 priority under this COP agenda?
So it's really greenhouse, it's the UN, it's United Nations. So it's the United Nations Climate Change Conference, which happens every year. In 2021, it was started on Halloween, it went till mid-November. So for 2 weeks in 2021. And it's really trying to accelerate the goals of the Paris Agreement, which were, a set of sustainability goals that were set out, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago. And, that was something that President Obama was committed to and went to Paris the meeting happened every year. President Trump did not attend, but the Biden administration did attend this year in Glasgow. So it's really seen as a very positive development that that there are going to be some hopefully concrete changes that are made. And some of them, just so that you know, it's coal. So it's a lot of issues that you're seeing in our Senate, US Senate right now on coal and phasing out of coal and fossil fuels, deforestation, electric vehicles, and renewables. Those are all things that may seem very, I know they're very global, but when we think about, I'm also on the transportation committee here at CB7, and we had a presentation a few months ago from somebody about electric vehicles. So all of these issues that are coming out of this climate change conference impact our local neighborhoods. And I really hope we're going to be able to, sort of weigh in on how they can impact our neighborhoods, more and more as we try to fight to reduce emissions and really work together to restore these ecosystems and provide the infrastructure to avoid, everything from a weather emergency, as we've seen with climate emergencies that have happened with Superstorm Sandy, to basic things like heating oil and making sure in our buildings, especially in places like NYCHA buildings where we need to make sure that a lot of the issues related to sustainability are addressed, and we take a sort of a very neighborhood approach and include everyone in that. That to me is really, really important, and I hope it's something we can think through as a board in the coming months.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned NYCHA because NYCHA is in the process right now as we speak of transitioning from fossil fuel and using a new system. So I can invite someone from NYCHA to come and speak to that as well. And, I did do the report on the environmental justice and equity, et cetera. That's something new for me, that whole area, but it's important. And I'm glad that you are speaking to that because there's a lot of changes and transformation going on, and we should, be on top of it and stay current. So I would be more than happy to work. It's from the NYCHA community, because I do know that the changes are happening right now.
100%. No, I think that's a great, and I'd love to, if it's okay with Barbara and Tasha, to maybe work with you on, however we can do a presentation for the committee once every few months, just to make sure it's, I know on the transportation committee, they present traffic data. I think we should also be presenting some of this data as well.
I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
They would be great.
Mark.
Elizabeth, do you know if the council member's office is focused on anything in particular that somehow relates to COP26? Is there something on the agenda?
I know Gail. Gail is obviously, she knows this. From her time as borough president, she was borough president during the time COP26 happened. But, I think the challenge is they want it to be more than just a conference. They want it to be like actually actionable things. And the one takeaway I've gotten, including my time in my day job, has just been that where the action on the ground is on these issues is really in cities around the world. It's not at the federal level. And so even when you break it down beyond the cities, going into, neighborhoods, I know Gail has that approach. And I think that, I've been in touch with her office on trying to provide her information and getting people from her staff. When she was borough president, Aldrin Bonilla, who many of you know, came to a couple of our meetings on climate last year and had really valuable insights on what was going on throughout the borough of Manhattan, especially when it pertained to not necessarily our neighborhood, but in lower Manhattan, where sea change and water levels were, rising, and issues after Superstorm Sandy that he spoke very eloquently about. And I believe he's still with the borough president's office. Where is he now? I thought he had taken a job working for I thought he was still working for, but maybe I'm wrong. Sorry.
No, you're right.
Mark,
He's working.
Mark, you probably know where he's working now. Anyway, the issues are still pretty front and center. And again, I realize I haven't provided a lot of data and a big presentation tonight, but in the interest of time, like I wanted just to let you know, I think it would be a great thing for us to focus on as a committee. And I think the time is now to do that, especially given the momentum both federally and locally in cities. Mark, your hand's up. Oh, I think you're muted.
There I am.
You're muted.
Okay. Yeah, no, I somehow minimized the screen to be
We're
a
amongst
thumbnail.
friends now.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I did that. So I'm really glad that Polly spoke, because I was going to bring up the environmental justice working group, but she obviously is the expert on that. I'd be riffing, so glad for that. And the idea of having a joint approach and update on environmental issues would really help us as a board to do things that I think that we want to do, but that from time to time are hard to convince the agencies with whom we correspond to get done. There are folks in our community who know this stuff so much better than me, so I would blush rather than share, other than to raise the topics. So you touched on one, which is transportation. And I think you started by mentioning NYCHA to touch on another, which is effectively heating and energy sources. These are the places where we need to make improvements in order to meet anything that resembles the goals for the elimination of I was about to say our carbon footprint, but the elimination of greenhouse gases from our skies. So there are things that we can do that, you know, tonight's a parks meeting, so of course my head's full of parks. And I remember when we were talking about building comfort stations and offices in phase 6 of Riverside Park South, that we recommended that they use ground source heat pumps in lieu of just another fossil fuel connected boiler, and we were brushed aside. I've since learned that the Brooklyn Botanic Garden built a new building and did exactly that. So these things are not impossible to do. And maybe our influence would be best or well shared by pushing a little harder on those things. And the kind of work that you're talking about and the kind of work that Polly has already got underway can give like data and support, as well as whatever oomph our initiative can give it. Obviously, I'm not at my most articulate tonight, so I'll shut up there. But I would like, I think those are fertile grounds for the continued collaboration.
Mark, you're doing great, and Polly, you're doing great too. And I think we're all tired. It was this was a big meeting tonight to talk about the dog run. So I appreciate that. Ken, I know you had a comment, I think, and I'm happy to take any other questions from the community as well if they have questions. I put some stuff in the chat that really summarizes what the COP26 and some of the goals are, but Ken.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly endorse this idea of talking about the climate as much as possible. I put something in the chat, an article I read today from Next Avenue about what we individually can do to help. And just one thing is, apparently, if we ate just one less burger a week, that would be like taking 1 million or 10 million cars off the streets. But I don't eat burgers, so I can't help there. But one idea I had was we have a whole new city council almost, and I'm wondering if there is any legislation that's been proposed at the council level that we could support, or if we have ideas for something that Gail could put forward. We might want to think about that at a future meeting.
Yeah, I think the most successful ideas that, just from my experience from having been a board chair, but also been to so many of these committee meetings. I'm thinking if there's something that we can really bring back to a neighborhood issue is more likely to be supported. So, you know, whether it's Polly's work with the task force, if there's something that really could be useful for NYCHA and NYCHA in our neighborhood, or if there's something at a park, or as Mark said, I think that's, you know, giving as many examples as we can, rather than just having some sort of like, we believe in what COP26 says, you know, and we want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and we believe in, you know, I feel like that's nice, but it's not going to get anywhere in the city council. So, you know, I think the more we can do to be specific would be great. And I'm happy to help advance that with the help of everyone on this committee. Susan.
Is there any way that Stop the Chop fits in this?
Look, I mean, you guys know it was part of my campaign when I ran, and I was the only borough president candidate who mentioned it and addressed it and went to all those conferences. But it's
noise from the helicopters. I'm just telling you that the when I'm in the park now, which you all know I'm in the park all the time, except when I'm self-isolating for COVID. The helicopters are unbelievable, and they're hurting the birds. So if there's any way we can rope this in, it's not NYCHA related, but it's really it's upsetting. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all issues that I think this committee is really well addressed. It's I know a lot of people think of it as maybe a transportation issue, but I actually think of it as an environmental issue first and foremost, and a city issue for all of us, a quality of life issue. So I think our committee has a responsibility to make sure, just as we did tonight with the folks on the you know, on 81st Street who care about the noise across in the park, we also have a responsibility to handle an issue that's arguably a lot more widespread with the helicopters. Excellent. So I will, I don't know, I'll send some stuff to the committee. I mean, I can send it through Barbara and Natasha just on what cities are doing around the world, and maybe that'll springboard some ideas from this committee on things we can propose more locally. But I think a good start would be certainly the issues that Polly raised and Mark raised, that are issues very germane to our neighborhood that really impact climate and sustainability.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Next month, we may be getting a presentation on the Rotunda project.
Okay.
When a transportation a couple of weeks ago, Colleen did say something about that they're ready to present both to us and to preservation. So I'm not sure when that will be, but we'll definitely schedule this for a meeting moving forward.
Great. No, that sounds great. And I'm looking forward to working with you all on these issues that I know they all sort of intersect. And again, it's great to see everyone and look forward to working with you.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for tonight's meeting. I know it was long, it was a lot longer than I thought it would be, but I think it was a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Barbara. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.